Today was pretty busy for me and I didn't have a whole lot of time to shoot, but I want to start this episode off by talking about something that I get a lot of questions about, and that's the way that I name my Pokemon. A lot of you have probably noticed that I have symbols before and after a lot of my Pokemon's names. So today I'm just going to walk you through what each symbol means and share a little bit about the information that I like to have readily available at a glance. To start, this triangle before my Vaporeon's name indicates that it has 100% perfect IVs, and that's the only symbol I'll put before a Pokemon's name. So that way, when I sort by name, I get my Pokemon with perfect IVs at the very top. So I have Golbat, Rhydon, Snorlax, and Vaporeon all with perfect IVs. A lot of people like to use the number of their IVs in a Pokemon's name. So if this Vaporeon had 78% IVs, it would be Vaporeon 78. The reason I don't use numbers is, one, because I don't want to read my Pokemon's name as Vaporeon 78 every time I look at it, and two, I use favorites to indicate Pokemon that are above 80%. So once I know a Pokemon's above 80%, I know that's a Pokemon I want to keep, and if it gets good moves, I'll power it up. So I'll use favorite to indicate that. You can see all the Pokemon with stars are above 80% IVs. But once I know that, it doesn't really matter what the actual IVs are. What I mean by that is, this Snorlax could have 82% IVs, or it could have 97% IVs. It doesn't matter. Either way, I'm going to keep it, I'm going to power it up because it has good moves. The only time it matters is if I get another Snorlax above 80%. This one is just below 80%, I think it's 77.8. But if it was above 80, I would need to know the exact percentage so I could choose which one to prioritize. But either way, in the end, they'll still both get powered up because they're both strong Pokemon, they both have good moves, and they'd both be above 80%. Plus, using favorites to indicate that means I won't accidentally transfer a good Pokemon above 80%. Now for the symbols that come after the name, that indicates the types of the moves that the Pokemon has. So this Exeggutor with a Yin-Yang and a Leaf has a Psychic type move and a Grass type move. My Snorlax with Zen Headbutt and Hyper Beam, again, Yin-Yang indicates a Psychic type move. That empty circle means it has a Normal type move. As I scroll down my list, you can see that I have quite a few different symbols, and I use a different symbol for every type. There are some Pokemon that don't have symbols, and that means they don't have moves that I think are worth using in a gym, so I don't need to know the types because I'm not going to be using them. Now, if you've ever tried using symbols or emojis in a Pokemon's name, you know that a lot of them don't work. So if you just try to put in some standard emojis, you get this question mark box. The symbols that actually work are Unicode symbols. And some emojis work as Unicode symbols, but there is a better option. On Android, I use an app called Unicode Pad, and it just has a ton of Unicode symbols that you can copy and paste into Pokemon Go, and most of them will work. They actually all worked before I updated my phone, but now that I'm on Android 7.0, a lot of them stopped working for whatever reason. I know they updated a lot of the emojis. That might have something to do with it. So I had to be very careful and selective with what I use, but you'll see if I use something like the scissors and I copy it, take it over to Pokemon Go, I can paste that into my Vaporeon's name, and it shows up. So Unicode symbols work in Pokemon names. Like I said, on Android 7.0, a lot of them don't work, so you kind of just have to experiment and see what works for you. And if you're not on Android, there is still an option. There's a website called copypastecharacter.com, and it has a huge list of Unicode symbols that you can copy and paste from here into Pokemon Go as well. So now I'll show you the symbols that I actually use to represent each type, and some of them are kind of weird because, like I said, I'm limited on 7.0, but I tried to make it work. So for normal, I use this circle because it seems like a pretty normal thing. Grass, I use this leaf. That's a Unicode symbol. You're not going to find it on the emoji keyboard. For water, I use the umbrella. That one is an emoji. For fire, it's this symbol for fire. That's, again, a Unicode symbol. For ice, I use a snowflake. For electric, I use the lightning bolt. For psychic, I use the yin-yang. For ghost, I use this. It's like a Canadian native symbol for something. I'm not sure. But it looks like a tombstone. That's why I use it for ghost. For flying, I use the cloud. For fighting, I use this like alert sign because I really couldn't think of anything better. I used to use the crossed swords, which worked on Android 6.0. Since the update, it doesn't work anymore. You might be able to use a fist. I can't. For rock, I use this symbol. It's from a foreign language. I'm not sure what, but it kind of looks like mountains to me, and that's why I use it. If that means something and it offends someone, I'm sorry. For ground, I use this symbol for earth. For bug, I use that thing. Again, I don't know what it is. It's from a foreign language, but it kind of looks like a spider or like some kind of insect thing. For poison, I use the gas pump because poison gas, I'm not sure. I used to use the biohazard or the radioactive symbols, but those don't work for me anymore. They might work for you. For dragon, I use this symbol. Again, I don't know what it means, but it looks kind of dragonish with wings. For dark, I use a spade. Not really sure why. Ace of spades, it's kind of dark. Blackjack, I'm not sure. For steel, I use the anchor because it's a big metal thing, and I really like the way the anchor looks, so I wanted to use it for something. And for fairy, I use the heart. So I'm going to put all of these in the description so you can copy and paste them from there if you want to. I'll probably put some other Unicode symbols in there that could work for each type that don't necessarily work for me, but they might work for you. But whenever I get a new Pokemon and I want to keep track of its moves, I can use the emojis from the emoji keyboard, obviously. But for the other ones, I'll just come into this note and copy and paste them back to the game, which now has to reload. Cassie's phone is still on Android 6.0, so I'm just going to show you that a lot of different symbols will actually work on 6.0. In fact, everything from the Unicode keyboard that I had works on Android 6.0. So you can see here that literally every symbol that I've tried to copy and paste into Pokemon Go from that Unicode keyboard works on Android 6.0, at least on this version of it. So like I said, just try things out on the keyboard. A lot of them might work for you that don't work for me, and you might be able to use some more appropriate symbols than a gas pump or a spade. So that's my naming scheme. That's the information I like to have readily available. I like to know what types the Pokemon's moves are, so that when I'm choosing Pokemon to use in a gym, I know exactly what I'm getting. If you have a different naming scheme, let me know how that works in the comments. I'm interested to see how you guys are naming your Pokemon. I know a lot of people put the rank of the offensive and defensive movesets, but I kind of just have that information in my head already anyway. So for me, the most important thing is knowing what types the moves are. So with that said, I hope it helps you out, and here's the rest of the day. It's pretty short, but I walked around LA, met up with Dante, and tested out a little bit more of Pokemon Go Plus's functionality. Check it out. Meeting with Dante again, the great company, 2 Pokestops in range, and this time I have Go Plus. So while we're sitting here, I'll be getting a little blinking light every 5 minutes. I'll be catching Pokemon and spinning Pokestops without pulling my phone out.
Still using BBM.
BBM's going off in India.
I might just respond to someone I don't know on BBM just because they found me. You know what I'm saying?
There you go. Look for him.
If you know my BBM, get at me.
I'm leaving the great company now, and I've been spinning these Pokestops all day. Look at that, got another one. All day I've been spinning these, so I'm just gonna check the journal and see what happened. Caught a Doduo, got tons of items. I filled my bag up twice. I had to toss items. Look at that. Just sitting there, like, didn't have to pull my phone out at all. It's pretty convenient. Caught a Rhyhorn, Pidgey ran away. Not feeling too bad about that. Just a lot of items. Missed out on a Growlithe, caught a Rattata. All the way down, my entire journal is just Pokestop spins, sitting while I was just working with Dante. And there it is again. Lots of items, no effort. I'm just gonna drop my stuff in the car, the rental for now, and take a little walk because there's a few Pokestops around and I'm getting pretty close to hatching this 10K, so I'd like to get that done. So here we go. It's dark now, but don't let that confuse you. I stopped for a little while to talk to some folks here at the great company, so I lost a little bit of time, a little bit of light, but the 10K egg is at 9.9 now, and it seems like tracking distance with Pokemon Go Plus connected is a lot more accurate. And that's something a lot of people have said online. So I think tomorrow what I'm gonna do is head out and actually test that. Now the other thing I'm curious to see is, will I get a notification from Go Plus when this egg hatches? So I'm just gonna lock my phone, put it in my pocket, and keep walking. We'll see what happens. That's a Pokestop, not an egg. Okay, I've walked the distance that I need, so now I just have to wait for the app to update that. So I'm just gonna stand here with Go Plus for a couple minutes, see if it lights up at all. Well, it's been about 4 minutes and nothing yet, so I'm gonna unlock the phone, see what's going on. There it is, no notification, but let's see what I'm getting. Another Snorlax. Zen Headbutt Hyper Beam again. Let's check the IVs. This one's over 80%. This is crazy. 2 Snorlaxes in the last couple days. 56 Snorlax candies now. This is crazy. It's a good thing I didn't dump all my candy and Stardust into that last Snorlax because this one has the same moves but better IVs. Now, something a lot of people have been wondering about is, does making a certain Pokemon your buddy increase your chance of hatching or finding that Pokemon in the wild? Obviously Snorlax isn't my buddy right now, but it is the first Pokemon I set as my buddy, and 2 out of the last 4 10K eggs I've hatched since making that Snorlax my buddy have been Snorlaxes. Now right now, all the evidence is purely anecdotal and most likely it's coincidence, but it's an interesting thought and it's something to look into in the future. But for now, it's dark, it's kind of sketchy out here. I'm gonna go home. Also, yeah, Drowsy is my buddy Pokemon. A lot of you guys were really surprised by that because I know Drowsy is super common in some parts of the world, but here in Southern California, Drowsy is actually pretty rare. You can see I actually only have 46 Drowsy candies, and that's since the beginning of the game. Since the game launched over 2 months ago, I've only accumulated 46 Drowsy candies. When trading comes out, I would gladly trade you guys some Ekans, Sandshrew, whatever for Drowsy. But again guys, rarity is regional. The Pokemon that are rare for you might not be rare for someone else. And I think that's something that Niantic got right, because how boring would this game be if everyone saw the exact same spawns at the exact same rates? But anyway, now I'm going home. While Dragonite has some good counters in ice types like Dugong and Cloyster, your best bet against Snorlax is to just use your strongest Pokemon. This isn't necessarily a huge problem on its own, but it adds to the issue of a very small group of Pokemon dominating the entire gym metagame.